こんにちは。
Hey everybody, it's Oopsy Daisy here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the anime Bungou Stray Dogs. And the English name is literally Stray Dogs, in case you're wondering. Now, the style of the anime is, it's rather standard. I mean, there's not like in One Piece where there's any like outlandish facial features or anything like that. But they do stick to a rather, it's not muted, but, you know, like standard fare, understated color palette. Aside from some of the characters' eyes, abilities, power-ups, you know, stuff like that has a brighter, very saturated, high-res look to it, which actually contrasts the rather normal look of the city. Now, the sound. The sound is really good in the anime. I mean, in the subbed and the dubbed versions. Both of them sound very much like what the character should sound like. There's no like jarring voice actor disjoints that makes you like, why does Roanoa Zoro sound like a 12-year-old girl type thing? Although, you know, I have never actually experienced that, but Luffy had an odd voice in the sub. Anyway, the music. Now, the intros and outros, or the openings and endings of the anime are very nicely done. I especially love the openings. They really do grab you and bring you in. They encompass the more comedic and the serious side of the anime. The battle music has a almost old world Asian theme. What came to mind immediately when I heard it was in Avatar: The Last Airbender. The actual cartoon had a similar sound to it when, you know, in the, you know, the battle music and stuff. It goes from rock to ancient Asian, and it's actually quite a seamless transition. You wouldn't think that, but it is. Now, the characters. Now, the characters in this anime are very dynamic. They have a few facets to them which make them slightly more interesting than your average, you know, like Saturday morning cartoon. Which is obviously nice. Now, there's probably going to be slight spoilerage from here to the end of the video, so if you don't want spoilers, just take my recommendation, you should watch this. But Atsushi Nakajima, again, is an 18-year-old orphaned boy. He was kicked out of his orphanage after a tiger mysteriously ravaged all of the food stores, livestock, and gardens of the facility. Upon his departure, the staff told him that it would be better off if his life ended in a ditch somewhere because the world is never going to accept him. Now, it is revealed throughout the series that the orphanage staff were quite abusive, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It is, if you get the righteous fervor thing up, it will definitely liven that up for you. You will definitely want to, like, have an encounter with these orphanage staff. They are not nice people. But they kicked him out of the orphanage, and the reason was that they didn't tell him this, so he didn't know. But he is a were-tiger. So his base ability is to turn into a tiger under moonlight. Now, when the Armed Detective Agency discovers this, you know, there's a lot of, you know, story content that goes on there, but he is, you know, allowed to join, and he learns to control his abilities. His abilities include, obviously, turning into a full tiger, partially turning into a tiger, and a certain amount of invulnerability, as well as the ability to restore himself. Because it's not regeneration, because there is no evidence that it was ever hurt. I mean, like, spoiler, in the second episode he gets his leg ripped off and it grows back in 5 minutes. So, throughout the series they definitely use this to their advantage in that they impale, torture, and otherwise, they give him a beating in this story, which, considering that he can't die, it kind of makes sense that they would, not shy away from using that ability as a plot point. But, after the 12th time that he gets impaled through the chest, you're just like, this guy's nuts. But, anyway, the plot revolves around Atsushi joining the Armed Detective Agency, which is an agency of individuals devoted exclusively to handling cases and missions that the police and the military aren't equipped to handle, basically because they don't have supernatural gifts. Now, a lot of people in this anime universe have supernatural powers and gifts that allow them to do everything from manipulate gravity to transform themselves or other objects. It's really it's like whatever you want as far as the range of abilities go in this anime. Now, the principal two people that interact with Atsushi during the anime is Kunikita Dopo and Osamu Dazai. Now, the entire agency does interact with him fairly equally, but Kunikita and Dazai are definitely the two that spend the most time with him. Kunikita Dopo, his ability is to be able to recreate any object he's seen and understands the purpose of by writing it in his notebook and can turn the page into whatever object. Osamu Dazai is pristinely ungifted, basically, if I may reuse the term from Legend of the Seekers. Yes, I watched that. But upon physically touching someone, he is able to completely negate their ability regardless of its strength or manifestation. Basically, if he doesn't get thrown into a wall and gets killed, he can neutralize someone else's supernatural ability. Now, that is not to say that he is by any means invulnerable, because, as I said, physical damage can still hurt him, but he is a very savvy person. He is also obsessed with suicide, which is the comic relief for the anime, which is actually quite funny in a way, because he is a compulsive suicide attempter, yet he also evades death without question. So every time he tries to kill himself, he ends up not dying. It's a really long story. Anyway, the first season covers Atsushi and the agency's work against the Port Mafia, which is the principal dark organization in the Japanese town of Yokohama, Japan, that the series is set in. Now, the principal antagonist for the first series is Ryanosuke Akutagawa, and his ability being Rashomon, which is the ability to turn his garments into any number of beasts' shapes and forms for both offense and defense. He is also in frail health, so usually his trademark appearance is him coughing up blood, or otherwise, just looking like rather a sickly person. But his ability does make him a very formidable and serious adversary, especially when cornered. The second season of the anime centers firstly on the background of Osamu Dazai, who was originally a member of the Port Mafia, which in some ways actually does contribute a lot to his work in the agency, because he knows exactly how they work, as he was, after all, one of the 5 heads of the mafia. It covers his entire background and how he came to join the Armed Detective Agency, and the second half of the series covers the continued emergence of the Guild, which is a third enemy organization. Now, when I say third enemy organization, I mean the Armed Detective Agency works with the police and the military. The Port Mafia is a strangely benevolent, yet strangely brutal association within the city, and the Guild is a North American organization pretty much devoted to gathering power, influence, and resources. Now, during the first season of the anime, the principal conflict is between the Armed Detective Agency and the Port Mafia. During the second season, the Port Mafia and the agency have to team up pretty much in order to defeat the Guild, because the Guild is a very powerful and malevolent organization. Now, this union is by no means stable, as, you know, good and evil cannot coexist very well. But for some reason, it works exceptionally well. With the major spoiler alert for the second season and most of the series, if you don't want to listen to me and you don't want to hear this, please click away now. Okay, so you want to hear it. Anyway, the principal power-up for the second season is the fact that Ryunosuke Akutagawa and Atsushi Nakajima both team up in order to defeat the leader of the Guild. Now, both being students of Osamu Dazai, Akutagawa being his first student and Atsushi being his second, they make an amazingly effective team. It takes a lot for them to both realize that they actually do have a lot in common, and they are both ultimately much alike. The only difference is one joined the Mafia and one joined the agency, and there's really not a whole lot of difference between them aside from the whole, like, labeled good, labeled evil thing. Now, as for my total assessment of this anime, it's definitely a good anime. I definitely recommend watching it. It is not going to cause you any undue despair or personal injury, because you know how, like, you know, you watch an anime and it's like, oh, this is perfect, until they kill off every single character in the last episode and you're just like, there is no hope in my life. But this anime is not going to do that to you. There are 24 episodes in OVA, and there is going to be a movie, Bungou Stray Dogs Dead Apple, coming out in the coming months. I do not know the exact date or time frame that is coming out, but it is a much anticipated film. So, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe my channel. More videos like this will be coming up in the future, and I sincerely hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.